The moon sat low over Wolfe Ridge, swollen and red, as if bleeding into the pine-dark sky. Wind screamed through the trees, carrying the scent of fury, sharp, metallic, and unmistakably animal. "Get back!" someone shouted. The courtyard outside Wolfe Hall, the old stone mansion that crowned the ridge, was chaos. Two massive figures, half-shifted, were tearing into each other in the gravel, claws glinting in the moonlight. Growls reverberated like thunder, feral and raw. And then the Alpha stepped out of the shadows. Ethan Wolfe. The air itself seemed to recoil when he appeared. 6'3", broad-shouldered, wrapped in the kind of quiet that felt heavier than sound. His eyes, a ghostly gray, burned with that wild shimmer only true-born wolves carried. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. Enough. The word cut through the violence like a blade. Both wolves froze mid-snarl, trembling, their heads bowed. But Ethan's control slipped for a heartbeat, just one. A pulse of energy surged from his body, a shockwave so sharp it shattered every window facing the yard. Shards rained down in glittering arcs, slicing the air, reflecting the moonlight. The fighters stumbled back, eyes wide with terror. Ethan stood among the glass, his hands trembling. The beast inside him, the one he'd spent years trying to bury, was clawing to the surface again. He could feel its hunger rising. Feel it whispering, "Let me out." Inside the mansion, the silence was worse. Every sound, a dripping faucet, the click of a lock, seemed amplified. Ethan stalked through the halls alone, past portraits of the Alphas before him. Men who'd ruled through blood and fire. Men who'd never flinched at the touch of a woman. He couldn't say the same. He poured himself a drink, bourbon, neat, and caught his reflection in the mirror. The faint ripple of the wolf's eyes stared back at him. "Don't start," he muttered under his breath. A knock sounded at the door. His beta, Caleb, stepped in, tall, steady, and loyal, the only one who dared interrupt the Alpha uninvited. "You lost control again," Caleb said quietly. Ethan's jaw tightened. "I fixed it." "You broke every damn window. Then call someone to fix those too." Caleb hesitated. "You can't keep going like this, Ethan. They're starting to fear you more than they follow you." Ethan's eyes flashed. "Good." But the word didn't hold. It cracked as it left his lips, softer than he meant it to be. Caleb looked at him, not with fear, but with pity. That Ethan couldn't stand. "Get out," he said, voice low, dangerous. "Before I forget you're my friend." Caleb didn't argue. The door clicked shut, and in the quiet, Ethan finally let out a breath that trembled through the whole room. Later that night, he sat in the office of Dr. Kelly Monroe, his therapist. A human, one of the few who knew what he was. The clock on the wall ticked in slow, deliberate beats. "You're slipping," Kelly said gently, jotting notes without looking up. "I'm managing it," Ethan replied. "You're not. You're surviving it. That's not the same." He looked away, fingers curling around his knee, the leather creaking beneath his grip. Kelly leaned forward. "You can't lead if you can't connect, Ethan. The wolf inside you isn't a weapon. It's a heartbeat. And it's dying." He laughed once, short, humorless. "Good." Kelly's gaze softened. "You don't mean that." But he did. Or thought he did. Anything was better than feeling what he felt when his beast stirred, that mix of rage, fear, and memory. The memory of her. Blood. Betrayal. Hands on him that weren't kind. He blinked, shoving it away. "We're done for today." Kelly sighed but nodded. "You can't outrun pain forever, Ethan. It has a scent. It always finds you." At the edge of town, miles from the mansion, a car wound its way up the mountain road. Inside sat Lena Carter, windows rolled down, her fingers feeling the cold air. The night smelled like pine and rain. She smiled faintly, turning her face toward it. Her seeing eye cane rested on the passenger seat, along with a stack of worn music sheets. Her mother's voice still echoed in her mind from earlier that day. "Are you sure this is the right move, honey? All the way out there, alone?" Lena had laughed softly. "I'll be fine, Mom. I'm not as helpless as people think." She wasn't. The accident that took her sight years ago had sharpened everything else. Her hearing, her touch, her intuition. The world spoke to her differently now, in vibration and sound. She'd learned to listen. Her new cottage sat just beyond the tree line, old, creaky, and beautiful. The owner, some reclusive man she hadn't met, had rented it to her through an agency. As she stepped out of her car, the rain began, soft at first, then heavier. The smell of wet earth surrounded her. She lifted her face to the sky and smiled. Then the wind shifted. Something in the air changed. A scent, faint, wild, and unfamiliar, brushed past her like a whisper. Her heart quickened. It wasn't human. It wasn't danger, exactly, but it was power. And far across the ridge, Ethan froze. In his study, storm rumbling outside, he'd been staring out the window, trying to drink himself numb. Then it hit him. The scent. It wasn't like the others. It wasn't perfume, or blood, or fear. It was stillness. Clean rain and soft earth. His wolf stirred, confused. The glass in his hand cracked under his tightening grip. He inhaled again, the beast inside him lifting its head for the first time in years. Who is that? The storm deepened. Lightning forked the sky. Ethan stepped out onto the balcony, rain pelting his face. His eyes glowed silver as the scent drifted closer, carried by the wind from the forest below. His wolf didn't rage. It didn't hunger. It went still. Completely still. For the first time since the night everything fell apart, the monster inside him wasn't screaming. It was listening. And somewhere down in the valley, Lena locked her cottage door, the rain tapping against her window like fingers on glass. She couldn't see the man watching from the ridge above, the Alpha King of Wolfe Ridge, or the way his breath caught in his throat when he whispered, almost to himself, "Who are you?" The thunder swallowed the words. But the beast heard. The beast always heard. If you're still breathing after that, hit that subscribe button, because what's coming next will make Wolfe Ridge burn. This was just the beginning. The rain finally stopped before dawn. The storm left Wolfe Ridge hushed, washed clean, the air thick with the scent of cedar and lightning. Ethan hadn't slept. He sat on the balcony, rainwater dripping from his hair, shirt still clinging to his chest. His wolf was awake, but silent. It hadn't been silent in years. He could still feel her scent in his lungs, like soft rain and wild jasmine. Every time he breathed, it came back. Every time he tried to ignore it, his chest ached harder. Below the ridge, down in the town's sleepy heart, Lena Carter woke to a morning thick with fog. The storm had knocked out the power. Her phone buzzed faintly beside her, an old voice message from her mother, asking if she'd made it safely. She smiled, running her hand along the wooden floor to find her cane. She didn't need light. Her world had long been made of sound, the hum of air through vents, the crackle of rain on the roof, the subtle vibration of her heartbeat when the world went quiet. What she did need, though, was groceries. She grabbed her tote bag, locked her door, and made her way down the narrow mountain road toward town. Ethan's black SUV rolled slowly past the same road an hour later. Caleb was driving. Ethan was too distracted to trust himself behind the wheel. "You've been out here since midnight," Caleb muttered. "You planning to explain why we're cruising through human roads like lost tourists?" Ethan didn't answer. His gaze was fixed ahead, eyes sharp, scanning the mist. When he spoke, his voice was low. "She's here." Caleb frowned. "Who?" Ethan didn't respond. The beast inside him rumbled softly, like it was sniffing the air too. They passed the general store, a small, brick-fronted place with potted plants on the porch. Ethan's gaze snagged on a figure standing near the entrance. A woman. She was slim, her hair the color of autumn leaves, braided loosely down her back. A white cane rested against her leg. She was reaching for a grocery basket, smiling faintly as she listened to the hum of morning chatter around her. Lena Carter. Ethan didn't realize he'd opened the car door until Caleb's voice broke through. Ethan, wait. But it was too late. The Alpha had already stepped into the street. Lena had just finished paying for her groceries when the plastic bag tore open. A carton of milk tumbled out, rolling across the sidewalk, followed by an apple that burst open on the concrete. "Damn it," she murmured under her breath, crouching to feel for the milk carton. "I've got it," a deep voice said. She froze. The tone was steady, quiet, not the kind of voice that shouted its presence, but one that carried authority like gravity. "Thank you," she said softly, her fingers brushing his as he handed her the carton. Her touch lingered for a heartbeat too long. Something in his pulse, steady, powerful, reached her through his skin. Ethan's wolf stirred instantly. It didn't snarl or bristle. It listened. He helped her gather the rest of the items, kneeling beside her on the damp sidewalk. "You should double bag these next time," he said gruffly. She smiled faintly. "I usually do. Guess I was distracted." He hesitated. "By what?" "The smell," she admitted, tilting her head as if she were hearing more than the world allowed. "After the rain. It's different here. Cleaner." Ethan swallowed hard. "Yeah. It's the ridge. Everything smells stronger here." "I like that," she said, her smile soft but real. "It's like I can see again, just not with my eyes." He should have walked away right then. But her voice, there was something in it. A calmness that anchored the restless thing inside him. He asked, "Do you live nearby?" "I just moved into a cottage up the mountain." She paused, sensing his silence. "You live around here too?" "Something like that," he said, careful. She offered her hand, blind, open, trusting. "I'm Lena." He hesitated before taking it. Her skin was warm, smooth, real. The touch should have triggered the panic, the violence, the beast that broke out whenever he was close to a woman. But instead, it steadied him. His wolf let out a sound he hadn't heard in years, a low, contented rumble. "Ethan," he said quietly. Lena smiled, though she couldn't see him. "Nice to meet you, Ethan." Back in the SUV, Caleb's knuckles were white around the steering wheel when Ethan returned. "You approached her," Caleb said flatly. "I helped her." "She dropped something." "She's blind." Ethan glared. "I noticed." Caleb's jaw clenched. "You don't get it. A blind Omega doesn't just walk into Alpha territory by accident. That's not random. It's fate or it's a trap." Ethan stared out the window. "She's human." "Is she?" Caleb asked. "Because your wolf hasn't shut up since you met her." Ethan didn't respond. The wolf inside him was pacing now, not with hunger, but with curiosity. That night, the town square filled with the gentle hum of voices and laughter. The inn at the corner, the Silver Elm, hosted its weekly open mic night. Tourists and locals crowded around candlelit tables, sipping wine as a piano melody drifted through the air. Lena sat at the grand piano near the stage, her fingers moving over the keys like water. The room fell silent, caught in the delicate rise and fall of sound that seemed to shimmer in the air. Outside, just beyond the trees, Ethan listened. He'd followed the sound without realizing it, drawn like a moth to flame. Each note she played sank into his bones. His beast, usually restless, vicious, lay quiet in his chest. He could feel her emotions through the music, loneliness, resilience, something deep and aching but beautiful. He leaned against a tree, closing his eyes. Then it happened. A whisper, faint, inside his mind. A voice that wasn't his own. "Why do you hide, Ethan Wolfe?" His eyes snapped open. The forest around him blurred at the edges. He stared at the window of the inn where Lena played, her head tilted back slightly, her lips parted as though she were listening to something no one else could hear. Her eyes, half shaded by the light, flickered. Just for a second. A faint, unnatural glow, like silver under glass. No one else noticed. But Ethan saw it. And for the first time since he could remember, he wasn't sure whether his wolf was his greatest strength, or if it had just met its match. The last note faded. The audience erupted in applause. Lena smiled politely, bowing her head, but her heart was pounding. Because she'd felt it too, that presence watching from beyond the trees. A heartbeat she didn't know, calling to something buried deep inside her. She whispered to herself, almost afraid to believe it. "Who are you?" Far beyond the glow of the inn lights, Ethan turned away and vanished into the dark, the echo of her melody still tangled in his pulse. The wolf within him whispered back, not in words, but in longing. And somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled again over Wolfe Ridge, warning that whatever bound them had only just begun. The storm had rolled away overnight, but Wolfe Ridge didn't sleep. Fog clung to the treetops, heavy and thick, while something else, older, darker, moved quietly beneath it. Ethan could feel it in the air. The tension, the pull. He stood on the terrace of Wolfe Hall, staring down at the valley where Lena's cottage sat like a pale ghost among the trees. Her scent lingered faintly, the echo of her music still burning in his mind. He should have stayed away. He told himself that 100 times. But his wolf didn't listen anymore. Caleb found him before sunrise, leaning against the balcony railing with a half-empty bottle in hand. "You're drinking again," Caleb said. Ethan didn't answer. His gaze never left the fog-covered woods. "She played again last night, didn't she?" Caleb continued. Ethan exhaled slowly. "You heard her too?" Caleb shook his head. "No. But the whole damn pack could feel your energy shift. Half of them thought we were under attack." Ethan's mouth tightened. "Maybe we are." Caleb stepped closer, studying his alpha's face. The haunted stillness there. The exhaustion under his eyes. "You need to talk to me, Ethan. Before you lose control again." Ethan set the bottle down and ran a hand over his face. "You remember Claire?" Caleb's expression hardened instantly. "I try not to." "She's the reason I can't." Ethan stopped himself, swallowing hard. "You know what she did. You saw what she left behind." Caleb's jaw flexed. "You don't have to go back there." "I do," Ethan said quietly. "Because I think it's happening again." He finally told Caleb the whole truth. How years ago, before Wolfe Ridge belonged to him, Claire had come into his life like light, sweet, beautiful human. Or so she said. How she'd slipped a toxin into his drink one night, something that didn't kill, but rewired. It made his instincts unstable, his wolf rabid at the touch of a female. How she used that power to control him, through scent, through pheromones, turning his strength into weakness. And how, when he'd finally broken free, he'd found half his pack dead, poisoned by her hand. Caleb listened, silent. When Ethan finished, the air between them was too heavy for words. "She's gone," Caleb finally said. "You killed her." "I buried her," Ethan replied. His eyes flicked toward the valley again. But her ghost never left. Caleb followed his gaze. "You think the girl—" Ethan cut him off. "No, Lena isn't like that. She's—" He hesitated, searching for words that didn't make sense even to him. "She's quiet. The wolf doesn't fight when she's near. It listens." "That's what scares me," Caleb muttered. "Maybe that's what she wants." Meanwhile, down the mountain, Lena sat at her piano with her hands resting gently on the keys. She wasn't playing. She was listening. The air in her small living room hummed faintly. Not like a sound, more like a vibration, low and steady, just beyond hearing. It started 2 nights ago. Every time she closed her eyes, she could feel something moving in the space between her thoughts. A voice, whispering her name. She told herself she was imagining it, that it was just exhaustion, or maybe the memory of the man with the quiet voice who'd helped her outside the store. Ethan. But when she pressed her palms to the piano keys, she could hear the whisper again. Lena. Her breath caught. The name wasn't spoken aloud, but it resonated through her body like a heartbeat. She stood abruptly, knocking the stool back. Her hand trembled. She reached out, feeling the edge of the piano, grounding herself. "Who's there?" she whispered into the empty room. No answer. Only the faint rustle of wind through the trees outside. But in the woods beyond her cottage, something large moved, quietly watching. That night, Ethan couldn't stay away. He told himself it was instinct, that he just needed to make sure she was safe, that she hadn't been followed or marked by anyone else. But his wolf knew better. It wasn't protection driving him. It was curiosity, connection. He stopped at the edge of her property line, inhaling her scent on the night air. It was lighter now, sweetened with honey and tea, touched by candle wax. She was inside, awake. Then he heard her laugh. Just a small one, soft, unguarded. He took a step forward before forcing himself to stop. "Don't do this," he told himself. "She's human. You'll break her." But then her front door opened. Lena stepped out onto the porch, sweater wrapped around her shoulders, face tilted toward the night. "Whoever's out there," she said calmly, "you can stop pretending to hide." Ethan froze. She smiled faintly. "You're not exactly quiet." He stepped out of the shadows slowly, the moonlight glancing off his shoulders. "You shouldn't be outside alone at night." She tilted her head, listening to his voice. "Neither should you. You sound tired." Ethan's mouth curved slightly. "You can tell that from my voice? I can tell a lot of things from people's voices." She gestured toward the porch railing. "Come on. I don't bite." He hesitated, then joined her. The air between them vibrated with quiet energy, the kind that made his pulse drum too fast. "I wanted to thank you," she said, "for helping me the other day." "You already did." "Not properly." She reached for him, her hand brushing his. And just like that, the world went still. Ethan's wolf didn't rise up. It didn't snarl. It bowed. Every muscle in his body loosened as if the beast inside him had exhaled for the first time in years. He didn't pull away. "Most people flinch when they touch me," she said softly. "Most people aren't you," he replied. That night, Ethan dreamed. He was standing in a field of white light, the moon hanging too close, almost within reach. Lena was there, not blind, not human, her eyes glowing like silver fire. She reached for him, her touch warm and sure. "You don't have to be afraid," she said. When he tried to speak, his voice wasn't his own. It was his wolf's. And from somewhere deep inside, he heard himself whisper back, "You're not supposed to exist." She smiled. "Neither are you." He woke up gasping, drenched in sweat, his heart pounding. The scent of her, rain and honey, still clung to the sheets though she wasn't there. Meanwhile, Lena sat awake at her piano again, unable to sleep. The whispers had returned, but clearer now. "Lena, don't be afraid." She pressed her hands over her ears. "Stop," she whispered. "You're not real." But the voice, his voice, came softer this time, almost pleading. "Stay away from the woods tonight." Her blood ran cold. She didn't know why, but she obeyed. She locked every door and sat in silence until dawn. The next evening, Ethan was restless. His wolf paced inside him, anxious. He felt it, danger. Close. He left Wolf Hall without telling Caleb. The pull drew him straight toward Lena's cottage. He arrived just as the last light faded from the sky. Her scent was there, but so was another. Sure. Metallic. Wrong. Ethan's vision flickered silver. He moved quietly through the trees until he saw it, one of his own pack, standing at the edge of Lena's yard. Jason, Ethan growled. The younger wolf turned, startled, his face half-shadowed. Alpha, Jason stammered. I was just spying on a human woman? Ethan's voice was low, deadly. You know better. Jason's eyes lifted, and Ethan froze. They weren't gold. They were red. A slow, unnatural smile spread across Jason's face. She's not human, Alpha. Before Ethan could react, Jason lunged, faster, stronger than he should have been. Ethan caught him mid-strike, slamming him into a tree, his claws digging deep into bark. What are you? Ethan hissed. Jason's grin twisted. She calls to all of us. You just can't hear it yet. His body convulsed. The glow in his eyes pulsed once, then went out. He collapsed to the ground, unconscious or dead. Ethan stood there, chest heaving, rain beginning to fall again. From the porch, Lena's voice drifted softly through the darkness. Ethan. He turned toward her, his shirt torn, blood on his hands, eyes flickering between man and beast. She couldn't see the horror standing before her, but she could feel it, and even then she didn't run. I told you not to be afraid, he said quietly. Her voice was barely a whisper. Then tell me what's really out there. Ethan looked at her for a long, trembling moment, his wolf breathing in tandem with his own. And from the shadows, unseen by both, another pair of red eyes blinked open. Watching. Waiting. The ridge wasn't quiet anymore. Rain drenched Wolf Ridge that night. The kind of rain that buried sounds, washed away blood, and made everything smell like sorrow. Ethan stood in the yard outside Lena's cottage, Jason's lifeless body at his feet. His wolf was pacing just beneath his skin, desperate to break free, to hunt whatever had poisoned one of their own. But it wasn't rage Ethan felt this time. It was dread. Jason's eyes, that red glow, he'd seen it before. Years ago, in the ashes of the Red Order's laboratories. He thought they'd all been destroyed. He was wrong. Caleb arrived minutes later, soaked through, his face pale when he saw the body. God, then what happened? Red eyes, Ethan said simply. He wasn't himself. Caleb knelt, inspecting the strange marks burned into Jason's wrists, like veins of black smoke crawling beneath the skin. This isn't natural. It's control magic. Ethan's voice was low, controlled only by sheer will. No, it's science. The Red Order. Caleb's head snapped up. That's impossible. They were wiped out years ago. I watched their labs burn, Ethan said, but I never found the bodies of the ones who ran them. He looked toward Lena's porch, where she stood silently under the overhang, barefoot, her white sweater plastered to her skin by the rain. Her face was unreadable, but her aura, the strange stillness that always calmed his wolf, trembled with something close to fear. Later, inside her cottage, the air felt thick. The storm outside pressed against the windows, wind whistling like whispers. Ethan stood near the fireplace, his hands flexing, his eyes glowing faintly gold. Lena sat across from him, hands folded in her lap. You think I had something to do with that man? I don't know what to think, he said honestly. But his eyes, they looked like something I thought I destroyed years ago. What was it? She asked softly. He hesitated. The Red Order. A group that... He stopped, unsure how much to say. But she nodded, almost knowingly. that captured wolves and experimented on them. On omegas too. Ethan's gaze snapped to her. How do you know that? Her sightless eyes lifted toward him. Because I was there. The silence that followed was unbearable. Lena's voice was steady, but there was something trembling underneath. Not fear, not shame, but the weight of memory. I was 17, she began. I didn't even know what I was. My mother died before she could tell me. I thought I was human. But when I turned 18, my senses started changing. I could hear heartbeats, emotions. I could feel people before they spoke. She swallowed hard. They found me the night of my first heat. The Red Order. They said they wanted to help me understand what I was. I believed them. Ethan's fists clenched. His wolf growled low inside him. They weren't scientists, she continued. They were hunters, and we were their subjects. Omegas like me were bred for one purpose, to control alphas. They injected us with compounds, changed our scent, our blood chemistry. Her fingers tightened around the hem of her sweater. They said if an alpha's wolf was too wild, too strong, they could break him through us. Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. They turned you into weapons. Yes. Her lips trembled. They tested us on chained alphas. They wanted to see if we could make them submit with our presence. With touch. With scent. She exhaled shakily. I could. Ethan took a step closer, his breath uneven. You escaped. Barely. There was an explosion in the labs. Someone set the place on fire from inside. I ran. But not before they blinded me. He froze. They did that to you? She nodded once. Said I'd seen too much. The air between them pulsed, grief, rage, tenderness all tangled into something wordless. Ethan turned away, unable to look at her. That's why my wolf reacts to you. Why it goes still. They made me this way, Lena said softly. My scent, my touch, it calms what's broken. But it comes at a cost. He looked back at her, frowning. What cost? Every time I use it, it drains something from me. I lose time. Memories. Sometimes days. Ethan's breath caught. You forget. Pieces, she admitted. I've lived here for 6 months, but there are gaps. Whole days I can't remember. He took a step toward her. Then stop using it. She gave a sad smile. Tell that to my instincts. I don't control it. It's like breathing. It happens when I'm near someone whose pain is too loud. Their eyes met, hers blind but seeing more than he wanted her to. That night, the storm quieted, but neither of them could sleep. Ethan stayed to guard the perimeter, pacing outside like a restless shadow. But the danger came again. It started as a hum, low, like static. Then the forest lights flickered crimson. Dozens of pairs of red eyes blinked open between the trees. Lena, inside. Ethan shouted, his claws sliding free as his wolf surged forward. Shapes moved in the rain. Half human, half wolf, their movements jerky, unnatural. Controlled. The Red Order's soldiers. Ethan's beast roared out of him, black fur erupting as he shifted, massive, dark as smoke, his gold eyes burning with fury. The attackers lunged, but he was faster, stronger, savage. He tore through them like shadows, but every wound they made smoked with a red light that burned like acid. Inside the house, Lena could feel his pain. His heartbeat echoed through her veins, his fury humming in her bones. She dropped to her knees, clutching her head as the psychic link between them sparked alive. Ethan. He heard her voice inside his mind. Stay inside. He growled. I can help you. But it was too late. She reached out with her mind, pouring calm into the chaos, sending waves of silver light through the bond that connected them. Ethan's wolf froze mid-attack. The rage dissolved. His vision cleared, and for the first time he saw them clearly. Not monsters, but wolves in pain, their bodies riddled with metal implants, their souls enslaved. He didn't kill them. He released them, with a single howl that shattered the night. The attackers collapsed, the red light in their eyes fading. And then Ethan collapsed too, panting, human again, naked in the rain. Lena ran out, finding him on his knees. "Ethan!" He looked up at her, trembling. "What did you do?" She knelt beside him, touching his cheek. "I took it from you. The rage. The fire." His heartbeat slowed under her touch. "You shouldn't have done that." She smiled faintly. "I know." Then she went limp in his arms. He carried her inside, laying her on the couch. She was pale, her breathing shallow. "Come on, Lena," he whispered, pressing his forehead to hers. "Don't you dare leave me." Her pulse fluttered weakly beneath his fingers. And then, suddenly, she wasn't there. Not her body, her mind. She stood in darkness, barefoot on cold stone. A chain rattled somewhere ahead, and firelight flickered across black fur. A massive wolf was crouched in the shadows, its eyes molten gold, its body bound by chains of flame. When it spoke, its voice was Ethan's and yet not his. "You shouldn't be here." Lena took a step forward. "Who are you?" It looked up at her, the firelight reflecting in its eyes. "You know who I am. You're his wolf." "I am his curse," the beast growled softly. "His rage. His prison." Lena moved closer, her heart racing. "He's dying inside. You're killing him." The wolf's gaze softened, pained. "No. I'm protecting him. From what happens when he lets anyone in." She reached out, her hand trembling, and touched the fiery chain. It didn't burn her. The wolf stilled. "You don't need to protect him from me," she whispered. The beast's voice dropped to a rumble that seemed to shake the ground. "You think you can save him? You're already bound to him, Omega." She shook her head. "Bound?" Its eyes met hers, molten and endless. "You were made to calm alphas. But I am not just an alpha." It leaned closer, until its breath brushed her cheek, hot and wild. "I am his soul," it murmured, "and you're my mate." The chain snapped. Fire flared. The world dissolved. Lena gasped awake with a scream, Ethan's arms catching her before she could fall. Her pupils were blown wide, her skin slick with sweat. "Lena," Ethan said urgently, "look at me." She did, and for a heartbeat, her eyes glowed the same gold as his. "You're not supposed to exist," she whispered. He froze. "What did you see?" Her voice was hoarse, trembling. "Your wolf," he said. Ethan's pulse thundered as he cupped her face. "He said what?" She met his gaze, tears glimmering in her blind eyes. "He said I'm his mate." The room went still. Only the storm outside dared to breathe. And far away, deep in the woods, the Red Order watched through unseen eyes, smiling. The rain had stopped, but Wolf Ridge still felt drenched in something heavy, the kind of silence that comes after a confession too dangerous to be taken back. Lena's words echoed in Ethan's skull like a curse. He said I'm his mate. He'd heard many things in his life, pleas, prayers, threats, but nothing had ever terrified him more than that. Because if it was true, if the bond between them was real, it would destroy her. For 3 days, Ethan avoided her. He posted guards near her cottage, ordered Caleb to watch the borders, buried himself in work, patrols, and half-empty whiskey bottles. But nothing silenced the tether between them. At night, when he closed his eyes, he could feel her heartbeat, faint, fluttering, too soft to belong to someone who'd endured so much pain. Sometimes she'd whisper his name in her sleep, not aloud, but inside his mind. And sometimes he'd wake gasping, his sheets soaked, the ghost of her scent on his skin. Lena didn't need her eyes to know he was nearby. She could feel him too. When he was angry, her pulse raced. When he was hurting, her chest tightened until it felt like drowning. And when he dreamed, when his wolf prowled through the dark corners of his subconscious, she saw it too. The first time it happened, she thought it was just another nightmare. She was walking through fire, the same fire that had blinded her years ago, but this time, someone else was there. A figure bound in chains, dragging himself through the flames. "Ethan," she called out. He turned toward her, his face marked by agony, his eyes burning gold. "Don't come closer." But she did. She always did. The fire parted for her like fog. She reached him, her hand trembling as it touched his cheek. And in that moment, the flames went out. When Ethan woke in his own bed miles away, his cheek was warm where she touched him. He didn't understand how. He didn't want to. But he knew one thing for certain: the bond wasn't just emotional anymore. It was physical. By the fourth night, he couldn't stay away. He found himself outside her cottage again, his breath fogging in the cold. Her light was still on. When she opened the door before he could knock, he knew she'd felt him coming. "You don't have to be afraid," she said softly. Ethan's voice was rough. "You shouldn't say things you don't understand." She smiled faintly. "I understand more than you think." "Do you?" he asked, stepping closer. "Because every woman I've ever touched has ended up bleeding. Or worse." She didn't flinch. "Then let's start with something small." Her hand reached out, slow, patient, and found his. The moment her skin met his wolf stirred, restless beneath his ribs, testing the air. But it didn't rage. It didn't recoil. It breathed. Lena guided his hand upward, pressing it gently against her cheek. "You see? Nothing's broken." Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. "You don't know what you're doing." "I'm teaching you to trust touch again," she murmured. "Not because you need me to, but because you deserve to remember what it feels like." Her fingers slid along his arm, slow and sure. The air thickened, charged with something that wasn't quite lust, wasn't quite peace. It was something older. Something the wolf inside him recognized instantly. "Lena, don't fight it," she whispered. "You fought your whole life. Just feel." He closed his eyes. Her scent filled him, soft honey, earth after rain, and something else, home. When he leaned forward, their foreheads met. His breath mingled with hers, shaky and uneven. "Tell me if I hurt you," he said, his voice breaking. "You couldn't," she whispered back. "Not anymore." He kissed her then, slow, trembling, reverent, as though she might vanish if he moved too fast. And when her hands slid to his chest, when her heartbeat matched the rhythm of his, the bond between them ignited. Gold light flared around them, invisible to human eyes but blinding to their wolves. Ethan gasped, pulling back, his pupils shifting, his teeth flashing. His wolf howled inside him, ecstatic, wild. "No," he rasped, stumbling back. "No, no, this can't." "Ethan." He clutched his chest, his breathing ragged. The mark, faint but glowing, had appeared just above her collarbone, the shape of a crescent moon dripping into flame. His mark. "Oh God," he whispered. "What did I do?" Lena's fingers brushed the mark. "You didn't choose it. Neither did I." But he was already backing away. "This isn't fate. It's manipulation. They did something to you, Lena. You said it yourself. They made you to control alphas." Her voice cracked. "And you think that's all this is?" He couldn't answer, because part of him wanted to believe it, needed to believe it, or else he'd have to face the truth he feared most, that the only woman who could calm his beast was the one destined to be destroyed by him. The next day, Ethan locked himself inside Wolf Hall's strategy room. Maps of pack territories, coded messages, and old research files covered the table. Caleb walked in, tossing a folder onto the pile. "You're not going to like this." Ethan didn't look up. "I haven't liked anything in weeks." "What is it?" Caleb's tone darkened. "Intel from a contact in the northern packs. The Red Order isn't gone, they've reorganized. New name, same monsters." Ethan's jaw clenched. "What do they want?" Caleb hesitated, then said it. "Her." Ethan's eyes snapped up. "Lena?" "Not just her." Caleb opened the file, revealing medical scans, blood work reports, and an old research photo. Lena as a child, wires attached to her temples. They've been tracking her since she escaped. They say she carries something no Omega should have. Ethan frowned. "What?" "A dormant alpha gene." Ethan froze. Caleb continued. "It's rare, genetic mutation from the old bloodlines. She's both Omega and Alpha. She can bond and command. That's why she can connect to your Wolfe without fear." Ethan's voice dropped to a whisper. "And that's why they want her back. They think she's the key to controlling every Alpha in North America," Caleb said grimly. "If they get her, it's over." Ethan's pulse thundered. "Then we move her. Tonight." But fate had other plans. That night, Lena waited for him, sitting on the edge of her bed, her fingers tracing the faint mark glowing on her skin. She could feel him coming. His fear, his guilt, his longing. It pulsed through their bond like a second heartbeat. "I'm not your weakness," she whispered to the air. "I'm your balance." But her words never reached him. Because while Ethan was arguing with Caleb about escape routes, the Red Order was already inside the valley. Silent, efficient, prepared. They'd learned from their past mistakes. A single dart through the open window, a hiss of gas, and Lena's world tilted. She staggered to her feet, choking on the sweet metallic scent. The last thing she heard was the low hum of an engine outside and a voice in her head. Not Ethan's, but colder, crueler. "Welcome home, Subject 19. Then everything went dark. Ethan felt it before he knew it. He was in the war room when his chest seized, a violent, sudden pull, like his soul had been ripped through his ribs. "Lena!" He bolted for the door. "Ethan, what's wrong?" Caleb shouted, chasing after him. "She's gone." The words echoed down the empty hall. He shifted before he hit the forest line, his wolf tearing through the night with a roar that shook the trees. But the scent was already fading, replaced by smoke, metal, and the faintest trace of blood. He dropped to his knees in the mud, clawing the earth, his howl splitting the sky. Somewhere in the distance, a helicopter lifted off under the cover of darkness. And in its hold, Lena lay unconscious, a collar of silver light wrapped around her throat, pulsing softly in rhythm with his mark. The storm had returned to Wolfe Ridge, wild and merciless, like it could feel the Alpha's grief. Ethan ran through it barefoot, blood streaking down his arms, rain washing it clean only to make room for more. His wolf was half out, half in, a creature neither man nor beast, fueled by scent and agony. Every nerve in his body screamed her name, Lena. The world had narrowed down to her scent, faint honey, smoke, and fear, scattered across the trees like breadcrumbs leading straight into hell. Caleb caught up with him halfway down the ridge, his truck's headlights cutting through the mist. He slammed the door and ran toward him. "Ethan, stop. You're bleeding out." Ethan turned, eyes molten gold. His voice was not entirely human when he spoke. "They took her." Caleb's breath hitched. "I know. We found tire tracks." "They went south," Ethan growled. "Past the river." Caleb stepped closer, cautious. "You can't do this alone. You're half-shifted. You'll lose yourself before you reach them." Ethan's lip curled, revealing fangs that gleamed in the rain. "Then I'll lose what's left of me." He started walking again, fast, steady, unstoppable. Caleb cursed under his breath, following. At least let me get back up. Ethan didn't answer. His beast had taken the reins. Miles away, Lena woke to the sterile hum of machinery. Her wrists were strapped to a metal bed, the smell of antiseptic burning her throat. Cold air hissed through vents above her. She couldn't see, not because of her blindness, but because the air itself felt empty, dead. Like the world around her had been drained of life. "Good evening, Subject 19. The voice came through an intercom, smooth, practiced, familiar. Dr. Mercer. The same voice from the labs years ago. The one that whispered orders while she screamed. Lena's pulse spiked. "You should have died in that fire." "I nearly did," Mercer replied calmly. "But the ashes are fertile soil, my dear. Things grow back stronger." She heard footsteps approach. "You've matured beautifully. And your bond, it's exquisite. An alpha like Wolfe is a rare specimen." "You won't touch him," she hissed. "Oh, but that's precisely the point. You and he are bound, body, mind, soul. Through you, we can reach him." A sharp pain sliced into her neck. A needle. She gasped, muscles seizing. Mercer's tone was almost tender. "We're not going to hurt you, Lena. We're going to amplify you." Electricity surged through her veins, cold and burning all at once. Her heartbeat stuttered, and in the back of her mind, she felt him. Ethan. His rage hit her like thunder, raw, violent, searching. She clung to it. To him. Back in the forest, Ethan dropped to one knee, snarling as a jolt of psychic energy ripped through him. His claws tore into the earth, lightning crackling along his skin. "Lena." He could hear her heartbeat echoing faintly in his head. It was weak, fading. "Talk to me," he growled into the storm. "Let me find you." Her voice brushed his mind, faint but steady. "Don't lose yourself, Ethan," he roared, half in pain, half in defiance. "I already have." And then he shifted fully. The sound was grotesque, bones cracking, muscles stretching, skin tearing and reforming. When it was done, the alpha stood on 4 legs, black as obsidian, his eyes burning gold through the rain. He threw back his head and howled, a sound that rolled across mountains, rattling windows miles away. The hunt had begun. The Red Order's base was hidden beneath an abandoned steel mill on the outskirts of Brimstone Valley, a place even wolves avoided. Ethan tore through the forest, through traps, through guards, through anything that dared to breathe in his path. Bullets tore into his side. He didn't flinch. Silver blades scraped his fur. He didn't slow down. He was no longer an alpha. He was apocalypse in motion. Inside the facility, alarms screamed. Soldiers shouted, scrambling for weapons. "Contain him," someone yelled. "Use the sonic dampeners." But it was too late. The reinforced door exploded inward, and the beast entered, towering, massive, dripping rain and blood. His snarl shook the room. A guard fired. Ethan lunged, crushing him with one swipe. Another tried to run. Ethan's jaws snapped shut around his arm. Every scent, every heartbeat, none of them were hers. He wanted only one thing. Lena. Down in the lower lab, Mercer watched the carnage on the security feeds with eerie calm. "Magnificent," he murmured. "He's even stronger than projected." His assistant's voice trembled. "Sir, he's killing everyone." "That's the point," Mercer said. "The bond between them is primal. We just have to make it permanent." He turned to Lena, strapped to the bed, tears streaming silently down her face. Electrodes mapped the tremors of her heart. "Every time he kills," Mercer said, "his wolf gets closer to full surrender. When it happens, his consciousness will dissolve. He'll be pure instinct. And through you, will control him." Lena's voice broke. You can't control love. Mercer smiled faintly. No, but we can weaponize it. He flipped a switch. The machine roared to life, pumping red light through the wires attached to her temples. Ethan smelled her before he saw her. Through the smoke, through the blood, through the electric haze, her scent reached him like salvation. He crashed through the final barrier, steel and glass shattering around him. The sight that met him almost broke him. Lena, strapped to a metal table, her body convulsing as machines pulsed energy into her veins. Ethan, she whispered, her voice barely there. He moved toward her, but Mercer stepped between them, holding a device that glowed red. One more step and she dies, Mercer warned. Ethan's growl was low, deadly. Don't you understand? Mercer said, smiling. You're two halves of a design. You were never meant to be free. You were meant to serve. He pressed a button. Lena screamed. The lights flickered. Her psychic energy surged outward, wild, desperate. Ethan roared and lunged, smashing the device, throwing Mercer across the lab. He tore the restraints off Lena's wrists, the metal bending like paper beneath his claws. Her eyes fluttered open. Stop, please. But he couldn't. The beast had taken full control now. His fur bristled, his eyes burning like twin suns. Every scent in the room screamed enemy. He turned toward the cowering scientists. Ethan, she cried, they'll kill you if you do this. He didn't hear her, only the drumbeat of his own rage. He lunged, and then her voice echoed inside him. Not spoken. Felt. Ethan, come back to me. The wolf froze mid-strike. The flames in his eyes flickered. Her voice came again, soft and broken. I'm right here. He turned, saw her on the floor, reaching for him with trembling fingers. And for the first time in years, he let himself feel the full weight of her touch. The rage bled out of him like smoke. His fur receded. The monstrous breathing softened. He collapsed to his knees, human again, shaking. Lena caught his face in her hands. You came for me. His voice was hoarse, wrecked. I always will. Behind them, alarms blared. The walls shook. Flames licked at the ceiling. Mercer's voice came over the speakers, weak but venomous. You can't escape fate, Wolfe. You're bound by it. Ethan looked at Lena, his eyes haunted. We'll make our own fate, he said. But as he lifted her in his arms and ran for the exit, the last thing they saw on the burning monitors was Mercer's face, smiling. Because behind him, in another chamber, dozens of containment pods flickered to life. Each one held a sleeping wolf. Each one had red eyes. The fire had burned itself out by dawn. What was left of the Red Order's facility stood black and hollow against the bleeding horizon, metal twisted, smoke curling like ghosts into the morning air. Ethan stood at the edge of the ruins, shirt torn, skin streaked with blood and soot. His chest rose and fell unevenly. The adrenaline was gone now, leaving behind only exhaustion and fear. Lena lay a few feet away, wrapped in his jacket. She was breathing, shallow, weak, but alive. He dropped to his knees beside her. Lena, he whispered, brushing her hair from her face. Her skin was cold, her pulse fluttering like a dying flame. Caleb arrived moments later with the others, their boots crunching over the debris. Ethan, he froze at the sight of Lena. Holy hell! What happened to her? Ethan didn't look up. They used her. They tried to weaponize the bond. Caleb crouched, frowning. She needs a healer. Now. Ethan nodded once. Call Mira. Caleb hesitated. Ethan, you're not okay either. I'll survive, Ethan said through gritted teeth. She won't, not without help. Hours later, in the pack's secluded lodge, the healer Mira worked in silence. Herbs burned in clay bowls. The air smelled of sage and iron. Ethan sat beside Lena's bed, his hand wrapped around hers, watching every rise and fall of her chest. Mira pressed a damp cloth to Lena's forehead, whispering softly under her breath. After a long silence, she straightened and turned to Ethan. "Her body is shutting down," she said gently. "It's not from wounds, it's her spirit. The bond between you, it's too strong. It's draining her." Ethan stiffened. "Then cut it." Myra's eyes widened. "You don't understand. That bond is life itself. If I sever it, she might survive, but you'll lose your wolf. You'll become just a man." Ethan stared at her, silent. The idea hit like a knife. A wolf without his other half was a shadow, an echo. But watching Lena now, pale, trembling, lips barely moving, none of it mattered. He bowed his head. "Do it." Before Mira could answer, Lena stirred, her voice hoarse. "No." Both turned to her. Her eyelids fluttered open, unfocused, but aware. You can't give up your wolf. Not for me." Ethan leaned close, his hand tightening around hers. "You don't get to tell me what to lose, Lena. You gave me everything. I can give this." She shook her head weakly. "Your wolf is what makes you you. The man who saved me, the one who fought for me, he can't disappear." Mira stepped back, giving them space, eyes shining with quiet sorrow. Ethan brushed his thumb against Lena's wrist. "You don't understand. My wolf isn't strength. It's chaos. It's pain. It's the thing that breaks everything I touch." She smiled faintly. "You're wrong." He frowned, voice breaking. "Then tell me what it is." Her fingers, trembling, rose to touch his face. "It's home. You just forgot what that felt like." That night, Ethan slipped away from the lodge. The moon hung heavy, ghostly white over the mountains. His breath fogged in the cold air. He couldn't stay. Every heartbeat from Lena reminded him of what he'd done, how his love was killing her. He walked deep into the woods, past the river, into the ruins of an old watchtower where no one ever came. He sat there, alone with his guilt, listening to the quiet hum of insects and the echo of her voice in his head. When dawn came, he still hadn't moved. But love, true love, has a way of finding what tries to hide. Lena found him 2 nights later. She came without help, guided only by the bond that pulsed faintly through her mind like a compass. Her steps were uncertain, her cane tapping against rocks and roots, but her resolve was iron. When she reached the tower, she stopped at the threshold. "Ethan." He froze. Her voice cut through the shadows like light through fog. He didn't turn. "You shouldn't be here." "Neither should you," she said softly. He closed his eyes. "I told you. I'm poison to you." She took another step forward. "You're not poison. You're pain. And pain isn't evil, Ethan. It's proof that you still feel." His jaw tightened. "You don't know what I've done." "I know exactly what you've done," she said. "You saved me. You burned the world for me. And now you're trying to punish yourself for surviving." He turned then, slowly, reluctantly. His eyes were red, his face drawn. "You don't destroy me," she said, voice shaking. "You steady me." The silence that followed was fragile, heavy. Ethan took one hesitant step toward her. "Lena." She lifted her hand, reaching for him. "Please, don't make me walk through the dark alone." Something inside him broke. He closed the distance between them, catching her hand, pressing it to his chest. She felt his heartbeat, strong, erratic, real. And for the first time, he didn't pull away. He sank to his knees, burying his face against her stomach, trembling. "I can't lose you," he whispered. "You won't," she promised, her fingers in his hair. "Not as long as you believe I'm more than what they made me." The bond between them pulsed, a rhythm that matched the moonlight. Her energy flowed through him, soft and golden. His wolf stirred, but not with rage. With calm. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Then, without words, they moved together, slow, desperate, human. Their connection wasn't lust, it was surrender. The merging of two broken souls finally allowing themselves to be seen. The night carried their breath, their whispers, their forgiveness. When it was over, Ethan held her against his chest beneath the stars. She was weak but peaceful, her hand tracing his heartbeat. "I see you," she murmured, even without eyes. He kissed her forehead. "You're my light, Lena, the only one I'll ever need." But peace never lasts in Wolfe Ridge. The next morning, a shadow crossed the clearing. Caleb appeared at the edge of the trees, face grim. "Ethan, you need to see this." Ethan rose carefully, covering Lena with his jacket. "What is it?" Caleb hesitated. "It's better if you just come." Ethan followed, the air thick with unease. They reached the ridge overlooking the valley, and stopped. There, standing in the clearing below, was a woman. Tall, beautiful, dressed in black like midnight silk. Her eyes glowed faintly red beneath the morning sun. "Who is she?" Caleb asked, uneasy. Ethan froze. His blood ran cold. He knew that face. He'd seen it in dreams, in nightmares, in the fire that ruined his life. His ex-fiancée. The woman who betrayed him, poisoned his pack, and left him broken. But she wasn't the same. Her skin shimmered with an otherworldly aura, her pupils slit like a serpent's. She smiled, her voice carrying through the wind. "Hello, Ethan. Did you miss me?" Ethan's wolf growled deep in his chest. Lena appeared behind him, leaning on a tree for support. "Ethan, who is she?" He didn't take his eyes off Claire. "She's the reason I became the monster you met." Claire tilted her head, grinning. "Oh, darling, not the reason. The beginning." A gust of wind swept through the trees, and for a heartbeat, the smell of sulfur filled the air. Ethan's stomach twisted. "You're not human anymore." Claire's smile widened, sharp as glass. "No, I evolved. Thanks to the same people you burned alive." Her eyes blazed crimson. "And now, I've come to finish what they started." The earth trembled. Birds fled from the trees. Ethan stepped forward, his eyes flashing gold. "You'll never touch her." Claire's voice was silk and venom. "Oh, this isn't about her. It's about you." And as she raised her hand, the sky cracked open with red lightning. The storm rolled in with the kind of fury that only came when heaven itself wanted to watch something burn. Wolfe Ridge stood on the edge of war. The air reeked of sulfur and blood, the earth trembling beneath the weight of something unnatural. From the forest shadows, glowing red eyes appeared one by one, hundreds of them, moving like a single organism. Claire's army. Demon-touched wolves, born of pain and corruption, their growls a chorus of hate. At the ridge's heart stood Ethan. Shirtless, his body streaked with runes of old power, his wolf prowling just beneath the surface. Caleb and the pack fanned out beside him, armed with steel, claws, and rage. Behind them, Lena stood wrapped in Ethan's leather jacket, her cane set aside. She didn't need it anymore, not to find him, not tonight. She could feel him in every heartbeat of the land. The moon hung above them, red as blood. Claire emerged from the tree-line like a queen descending from hell itself. Her eyes glowed bright crimson, hair whipping in the storm. "You always did love dramatics, Ethan," she called, her voice carrying effortlessly. "Did you really think burning one lab would end me?" Ethan's voice was cold steel. "You should have stayed dead." Claire smiled, tilting her head. "I did die. But demons make such generous bargains." Her fingers twitched, and the demon pack surged forward. Ethan roared, his wolf exploding to the surface as he shifted mid-charge, black fur gleaming under the lightning. His pack followed, the air thick with howls and fury. The clash was chaos. Steel against claw. Fire against flesh. The air stank of smoke and ozone. Ethan tore through the first wave, ripping through creatures that bled black smoke. Caleb fought at his side, blades flashing, shouting orders. But for every demon wolf that fell, 2 more took its place. From the ridge, Lena could feel the storm inside Ethan. His fury was overwhelming, each heartbeat darker than the last, pulling him toward the same madness he'd once feared. If he gave in completely, he'd never come back. She closed her eyes, pressing a trembling hand to her chest. "You're not alone," she whispered, her voice echoing through their bond. "I'm right here." In the chaos of the battlefield, Ethan heard her. Her voice slid through the noise, cutting through the roars and screams, a sound only he could hear. And suddenly, the rage that had blinded him began to fade. His wolf slowed, muscles trembling, eyes flickering between gold and human blue. "Find me," she whispered again. Ethan turned toward the ridge, and saw her standing there, small and unyielding, framed by firelight. It was all he needed. He broke from the fight, sprinting toward Claire. She met him halfway, their collision shaking the ground. Claws, fists, fangs, every strike was personal. Years of betrayal boiled over into brutal, wordless violence. "You could have been a god," Claire hissed, slashing across his chest. "I just wanted to be free," he snarled, grabbing her wrist and twisting until bone cracked. "You loved me once," she spat. "I loved who you pretended to be." Claire's eyes flashed, her voice twisting into something inhuman. "Then die with your illusions." A surge of red lightning erupted from her palm, slamming into his chest. Ethan screamed as his body convulsed, the energy tearing through flesh and bone. He fell to his knees, smoke rising from his skin. Claire raised her hand again, ready to strike the final blow, but before she could, a wall of light burst between them. Lena. Her eyes were glowing faintly gold, her body trembling under the psychic strain. She had stepped into the battle, her power spilling out of her like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Her voice was steady, though every word cost her strength. "You don't belong here, Claire." Claire laughed, cruel and cold. "And what are you, little blind girl?" "His pet." Lena's lips curved into a faint, fearless smile. "His equal." She closed her eyes, reaching through the bond, not to control Ethan's wolf, but to guide it. The battlefield stilled. For a moment, everything, the screams, the fire, the thunder, fell away. Inside Ethan's mind, darkness and light collided. He stood in the center of it, the beast on one side, Lena's hand on the other. Her voice came softly. "You don't need to fight yourself anymore. Let it go." He looked down at her, tears burning in his eyes. "If I let go, I'll hurt you." She smiled faintly. "You never have." And for the first time since he was cursed, he stopped fighting. The chains that had bound his wolf, guilt, rage, fear, shattered. The power that rushed through him wasn't violence this time. It was light. When he opened his eyes again, the storm around him had gone silent. He rose to his feet, standing between Claire and Lena, his aura blazing gold instead of black. His wolf had merged with him, not as a monster, but as a guardian. Claire stumbled back, eyes wide. "Impossible!" Ethan's voice was calm, resolute. "You broke me once, Claire. You don't get to do it again." He lunged forward, swift, precise. They clashed once more, but now it was different. He fought not with hate, but with purpose. Every move was measured, every strike controlled. She screamed as his hand caught her throat, lifting her effortlessly. "You wanted power," he said quietly. "This is what it costs." Her body convulsed as golden energy poured through his touch, Not fire, not rage, but cleansing light. The demon within her shrieked, twisting, burning out from the inside. When it was over, she collapsed, human again, broken, crying, whispering his name one last time before the wind carried her away. Ethan barely had time to breathe before he heard Lena scream. He turned, just in time to see a demon wolf break through the chaos, lunging straight for her. Without thinking, he threw himself between them. The creature's claws tore deep into his back, ripping through muscle. He dropped to one knee, blood pouring down his side, but he didn't let go of her hand. Lena fell to the ground beside him, her voice shaking. "Ethan, no." He smiled faintly, his breath shallow. "I was never her alpha, Lena." He reached up, his fingers brushing her cheek. "I was yours." Her tears fell fast, landing warm on his skin. The bond flared one last time, bright and blinding. She pressed her forehead to his. "Don't you dare leave me." Her energy surged, brighter than ever before. The light spread from her chest to his, golden veins threading across his wounds. She screamed as the power left her, her body trembling violently. And then, in that instant, she saw. For the first time in years, her eyes opened, really opened. The world came into focus. The forest, the sunrise, the blood, the man she loved. Ethan. His face was exactly as she had imagined. Strong, scarred, beautiful. She laughed through her tears. "You're real." He smiled weakly. "You always saw me, Lena. Long before you had to." The light faded from her eyes as the gift ebbed, but his wounds had sealed. His chest rose steady again. She collapsed against him, exhausted, her vision fading back to darkness. But this time, she didn't mind. She'd seen all she ever needed to see. Weeks later, the war was over. Wolfe Ridge had begun to heal. The old lodge had been rebuilt, not as a fortress, but as a home. A refuge for displaced shifters, rogues, and broken souls who had nowhere else to go. Ethan and Lena ran it together. He handled the packs, the training, the rebuilding. She filled the halls with music, her piano a beacon that called the lost home. Every morning, sunlight spilled through the wide windows as she played, her hair glowing gold, the melody soft and steady. Ethan would stand at the doorway, leaning against the frame, just watching her. Sometimes she'd smile without turning. "I can feel you staring, Wolfe." He'd chuckle. Still the blind Omega with the sharpest instincts. She'd tilt her head, listening to his footsteps as he crossed the room. When he reached her, he'd wrap his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Your Wolfe's quiet," she'd say softly. "He's home," Ethan would whisper. "Finally." And as the piano played, slow, hopeful, alive, the once mateless Alpha King who had feared women, who had feared himself, finally found peace in the arms of the blind Omega who had taught him how to love again.